It's always great to be back in the USA. Thrilled to have our students back. Man, it's basketball for Texas Tech, and man, so thrilled for the Lady Raiders too. Just how well they're playing. I'm so thankful to work with somebody like Coach Gerlich, who just loves being a Red Raider. I mean, that's her heart, and you could tell. Since I've been here, she's worked unbelievably hard just to try to build an atmosphere and a love for the Lady Raiders. I mean, you know, she's part of a national championship. One of my favorite stories she told, we were both speaking at a health sciences event, and she was talking before, and they asked her what she remembers about the national championship team that she was on. And I thought she gave a tremendous answer. She said, you know, it's wild. You don't remember the wins, even though we had some significant ones in the team. She said, what you remember is the people and the times that we spent together and how much she loved that team. And that's her. I mean, she loves this program. She loves her team. You can tell there's a genuine joy that she has with this group. And so, I mean, I'm going to encourage people to come out and watch them play tonight, because of I've watched their teams play in the past, and really, honestly, when I watched this, and I told her, especially I watched the end of their Baylor game when they went on the road, like, this team is legit tough, and we've got a really good basketball team. And so, man, the home court advantage is so important, just like it is for us against Utah. I know JT signed a bunch of uniforms for the students, and we're giving away JT's uniforms. I know they're giving away some shirts tonight. Man, I just encourage, if you're a student, you're back in town, show up to these games. It's a blast. You got two great teams ranked in the top 25. Not that I care about that, but I just think we've got two teams that are playing really hard and worth the time to come and be a part of winning.
Coach, there's been multiple defenses this year that have gone up to the half-court line to trap Christian Anderson. I was wondering what your assessment of how he's done out of that, because for the majority he's been able to pass out of it, but sometimes it's stalled the offense. What's your assessment on how he's done?
Yeah, no, Christian is phenomenal, and he's attracting a lot of attention for good reason. I mean, people are trying to get the ball out of his hands, and, man, I thought we had some great attacks against U of H, and as the game went on, we had great attacks against Colorado, and I do think freeing him up is the key to it. Recognition of what's behind the ball and in front of the ball is important, especially when they put two on the ball quickly. Man, he's passed it at such a high rate. I do think that fatigue, you know, I mean, that's a big part of this too. I got to do a better job of figuring out a way to give him some rest so that he can just keep staying in attack modes, because sometimes you just end up making the right play, and sometimes you hold on to it trying to make the exceptional play. He's one of those guys, though, that he's been in more pick and rolls than anybody in the country, and his growth of learning is tremendous. And now that we've seen it a couple times, and he saw it early too, but I just think, you know, what it is how do you attack people behind the ball, and then how do you free him up and do different things to get him touches and catches in different locations. And we're moving in that direction. And one thing about this team, we're in our last 5 games, our last 6 games, we're one of the top 10 teams in the country, and top 5 really, top 6, and our defense is top 10. So that's where we've made some strides, and we've put so much time on the defensive side of it. We've improved. Now that we see some different things that we're seeing offensively, we're starting to dive back into having a balance in our practices where we can grow on both ends. And, man, he'll respond. He always does. But I do think we need to free him up and give him some different actions against the double team.
And you've talked a ton this season about Jalen Petty's efficiency. Nolan Groves has his moments, and even you've talked about Latrell Hoover and his potential. I'm just curious, as a program, how important is it to instill the mindset and the culture into those freshmen, as well as getting those production on the court?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's winning, is development of people, not just basketball players. How do you understand what winning really is? And that's everybody pouring their whole heart into it every day, and we've got such a great group behind, you know, our guys that play significant minutes. Honestly, they're just awesome guys. And their heart and belief. Sometimes you got to ramp up the competitiveness because you don't think you're going to play. And so you just kind of think, well, I'm not going to play, so why? No, it's just every day's got to have an edge to it. And we've had to learn to do that different ways because of our limited availability of bodies. But, man, they're leaning into it. And the more we play and the more we practice, the better this team gets. And I do think our best days are ahead of us. But, yeah, I mean, Latrell Hoover's not going to play this year. I mean, we're going to save him. And he's got some growth to happen just from a competitiveness standpoint. But, man, he's really improved in practices. But getting Mariel and Luke back and then seeing what we can do with Josiah when that time comes, I think that's the core group of this team that can get on the floor and make an impact.
You kind of just mentioned it there, Coach. Mariel got about 3 minutes in the game. You brought him back slowly. I'm sure that you're just going to keep doing that with him. But how big is it kind of having him back in the lineup just to see where he can grow as a player in his freshman season and give you guys some size when you desperately need it right now?
Yeah, no, Mariel going into that game literally had 2 practice days with our team, and one of them was really brief. And the other one was, and not a ton of live contact. So for him to go out there, and I thought he had a really great first half. That second half, he got in, and they went to try to score on him. He made a couple of defensive errors, but he actually had that basket that wasn't called a goal 10. I thought he made it, and you could see, you can say that, man, when a guy's available, you should be ready. But the speed of the game and the pace and the nonstop nature of it breaks you down. And until you've got game experience, it just takes a little bit to settle in and to not feel like you're trying so hard that you make mistakes out of effort. And that's what we were doing earlier in the season. I thought our effort was actually there for the most part. Just we were overrunning plays because you're trying so hard to get back in play. And so his intent is right, just needs more game experience. And Mariel will get there. And I'm excited that we got to put him in the game like we did. And, man, does he want to help our team. He's got a great heart for his teammates.
And then so much is talked about holding serve at home. You have 3 home games out of the next 4. Obviously, you got that Baylor trip in the middle of it. But how big are these home games going to be, especially against BYU and Houston coming back to your place in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, Wednesday night being our game against Utah, to have the students back for classes, I mean, I think that's the game changer. And the atmosphere, I mean, we've worked hard. We've updated the sound system. I mean, we're trying to get the game, the intro video louder and trying to get this to be a legit home court from the tip. And so I would just encourage people to be there early. And, we'll talk about it in a few days, but we're going to honor that 1996 Coach Dickey's team that went 30-2 and won the Southwest Conference this weekend. But, man, I can just tell you Wednesday night we need an edge, and that happens when everybody shows up early. And at Jump, we got students in the building, and no, we're excited about playing at home, and we can get better. We got better in practices, and hopefully our environment continues to improve like our team has.
When you look at Utah, losing streak right now, but they put up a fight against Arizona, close loss to BYU, how do you make sure they don't sneak up on you?
Yeah, I mean, Utah has got some really dynamic pieces at the guard spots. I mean, anytime you have guys averaging close to 20 and over 20 points a game at the guard spots, that just goes to show you they can take a game over. You don't need to have significant, offense run. You can give them a ball and you can give them some space, and, man, and we've got to be on edge to play against them. I mean, we watched, obviously, the Utah-Colorado game going into it, and they were right there winning that game on the road also. And they've got great size, and they've got good pieces at the rim, and they're growing like every team has. I mean, they've got some good non-conference wins too. So, I mean, for us, there just has to be an edge in every game you play, and that's the Big 12. And if you look at the scoreboard, or if you look at another team's jersey name and try to decide how you're going to compete, then you've lost. And so I think we're in the right place in how we want to get better and the edge that you have to play the game with.
Is there anyone or anything about this team that you're really proud of that you don't think anybody's really talking about as much as they should be?
Yeah, great question. Every team has their own growth. And the truth be told, our team although we've had some experience returning in JT and Chris at those two spots, and those are pivotal, neither one of those were in leadership positions last year. And if there's one thing that I see continued growth, and we need continued growth, that I love about this group is they do love each other, which has been a consistent theme with our team. But we're starting to see the voice of our group become more often. And that's the part that I love about what I'm seeing is just what's the command of the voice of this team for each other, and their encouragement and their ability to talk to each other and talk through difficult times, and the ownership that goes with hearing, maybe that you're not playing very good, and then how do you help get back right into your teammates. And I think that's the thing that I love the most about our group is when maybe you hear the outside noise of the difficulty of how one individual's playing, they're really trying to help each other. And the leadership of Christian and JT as they grow in this, they don't necessarily come into this season being the most vocal guys, but you start to hear their heart and voice to help each other, and I love that. I mean, that's the part that's being a part of a family. It's being a part of a workroom. If you go to work every day and everybody just sits and works by themselves, I mean, what's the fun in that? And I think that's when you have the most fun, is when you feel the most connected, and this group is really growing in that area.
After you had a couple days to kind of look at the film again, any new takeaways from the second half against Colorado?
Yeah, well, it's obvious that we had to go deeper into our bench in foul trouble. And two things. One, the workload on Christian being severe, it wore on him as the game went on. And so that's where I think two things I took away from that Colorado game is if teams are going to try to take Christian out of the game, how do we continue to grow the team in a way that we distribute and create advantages? And that's where Lawan's so pivotal. And the composure level, once it gets out of Christian and JT's hands, what's the composure level and grit in these tight games against great teams? Not against teams that you can overpower, but where they can match the physicality and effort at different positions. How do create an expectation and composure when it gets into other people's hands? And I thought Don was tremendous in the game. And then the other being just doubling down on making sure that our transition defense and our ability to guard without fouling keeps taking a jump. I mean, if you looked at all those baskets at the end, part of it is fatigue offensively with playing guys extended minutes and maybe going with a different group. And the other part is we didn't communicate and get back and guard the way we did the first half. And a lot of it has to do with our composure offense. I mean, they played zone and they weren't as ball pressure and creating advantages. And we really had some bad fouls, really bad fouls. And so I left that game knowing, like, we got to double down on just the fundamentals of how we want to guard in transition and how we want to guard on every possession so we don't put ourselves in bad spots, and how do we keep growing the group where when they're going to try to put two on the ball, we have some real opportunities to attack differently, and our composure level with those ball handlers and those decision makers increases with making it simpler, and they don't feel like they have to carry the whole load, just much like what we've done with Chris and JT. I mean, if you watch those guys, they're unbelievable at passing the ball. That's what they've gotten good at. Well, then they've been on the recipient end. Those other guys have been on the receiving end of all this. Well, now what happens when you're on the receiving end, but then it's not a clear advantage for you? Then what happens? And I think that's the next step for our team, is how do we create some confidence for those guys to make plays? And then when it doesn't happen, what's the next action for us to get to that we can free those guys up to where we're not panicking? And that's looked like what we did.
You mentioned him a little bit, but we talked about JT and Christian. They played a lot of minutes, but so does Donovan. He barely comes off too.
Yeah.
But what is, just outside of his shooting ability, which is obvious, but he's been really solid for you on defense too. What has he brought to the team in terms of just that elder statesman kind of mindset to a team that is pretty young otherwise?
Yeah, no. Donovan Atwell's approach And his ability to be available every day is, I mean, if you could just say who's the most consistent on our team, it's Donovan Atwell. I mean, literally. And he just is not up and down. He shows up every day. He works extremely hard. And I can tell you this, and I'm just trying to be honest about his growth. At first, he was just kind of like a yes, sir guy. Just do what you tell me to do. Just do what you tell me to do. And as a coach, that's great because that'll get you to like, hey, we can be a good team. But how do you become a great team is when your conviction as a player is equal to what needs to happen with the team. And that's where Donovan, I think, has honestly separated himself recently. Is he's not just like a try-hard guy that shows up every day and does his job. Now there's a conviction in who he is as a person that if we're going to win, this needs to be. And that showed up in that game, I thought, in the last few games, where not only is he in mismaking, I think his growth from the Arkansas game to now in that area has been as significant as anything that's happened with our team, where he's no longer out there just playing the game trying to be, I would say, a robot in regards to like, this is my job, this is what I do, and you're starting to see it. His intangibles, like that baseline shot he made in the first half, his composure with the ball where he's making the right play, his defensive awareness, not just to guard the ball, but to get to play what's next and to help connect people. Man, his growth in his conviction of what our team needs has been as impressive as anything. And that's where I'll tell you his experience has really helped our group. Great to see y'all.